going to hand over to Matthew and Alex again, who's going to talk through, we're doing now HoloLens, isn't it?
Well, virtual reality, augmented reality.
You did agree with this. Well, most people don't agree with these things, to be honest, which is me.
Okay, so the nature of this presentation is we're going to try and show you 3 different headsets. We're going to go with the HTC Vive first and give you a bit of an introduction about what virtual reality is and what the technology is about. Then we're going to try and switch computers and switch hardware, which should take us a minute or so, and show you the Windows mixed reality and where that's coming from. And then hopefully at the end we're going to spend a few minutes showing you the Microsoft HoloLens, which is sort of the next generation of where they're looking at. Right, so as Alex frantically tries to set that up and actually get it working, I'm just going to talk to you briefly about virtual reality, and then we'll look at the HTC Vive. So the idea of virtual reality is obviously that you get a completely immersive experience. The idea is that it actually kind of fools your senses into believing it's real. So you can interact with it, you can, depending on the technology, you can interact with virtual features within it, and it can be so immersive that sometimes, even though you know it's not real, but you can feel a little bit unsteady on your feet, a little bit dizzy. So VR experiences, they come in various forms, as we're going to look at here. You've seen the Google Cardboard and the headsets that we're going to look at, but you also get them kind of large format, so with stereoscopic projections onto walls, such as you get with recently Hobbs VR Cube. So augmented reality is a form of VR, and it superimposes virtual reality onto live camera feeds. It could be, again, through the headsets, or as Alex showed us earlier, it could be on sort of tablet or phone format. So in terms of the headsets, they include small, lightweight and fast processors. You have a stereoscopic display in the form of a pair of small HD screens, providing separate images for each eye. You've got head motion tracking sensors. They will include things like gyroscopes or accelerometers, and some even have eye tracking sensors. Some have stereo sound through the form of little earpieces within the headset, and gaming controllers so you can interact with what you're seeing. So probably the most popular and recognisable ones are these: the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, and Sony's PlayStation VR. But there's a load of other headsets out there that many don't realise, with varying specifications and catering for various budgets. So in terms of uses, well, it's probably most commonly used in computer gaming, but also people are using it for learning, for training, such as piloting or driving, or in surgical training, or even combat military training. So in the AC industry, we typically use it for virtually experiencing our buildings before you actually go into construction. So not just for showing off the design, which is obviously nice to do, but also for checking models for errors, or for discussing and changing finishes. So what we want to demonstrate now is how we use Revit and Enscape with the HTC Vive.
Just log in again.
So again, bear with us for a minute. Can we get some music?
There's an interesting point to add here that VR, the way people process things, men are different from women. So women get more sick faster because of the way women process images than men do on these things. So, yeah, so any women here, these things are sexist. Yeah. Yeah. Apparently there's 2 ways we process things. Like, Mark, can you remember? Tell us.
It was the parallax, the way you process the parallax distortion. So
Yeah.
when
Apparently
we
men
were
and
trying
women.
it at Fairhurst,
Yeah.
all the girls kind of got sick after about 10 minutes, where the guys started to get sick after about half an hour to an hour in the headset.
So what we're trying to do is from Enscape you can obviously go into virtual reality and you can create a standalone executable. We've launched that and it's looking for the headset, but it can't find the headset. So that's my technology is rubbish.
I think I might have to kill it in a second.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next one.
Did anyone use the Vive during the break? It worked, didn't it? Yeah, okay. That's the important thing.
Let's move on to mixed reality. Right. So you get the idea. I think you've seen a little demo when you put the headset on. And what happens typically with the headsets is with the Vive, you've got two sensors here, and they create an environment and feeds it back to the computer. The Vive is also attached to the computer. You've got controllers which work on Bluetooth, and you can move around, navigate through. Your limitation is the cord that's attached to the laptop. So what you do is you turn around a couple of times and you find your cord's wrapping around yourself and you're in danger of pulling the laptop off the desk. But other than that, it feels like a pretty immersive, realistic experience, which is obviously the idea. Now, while Alex tries to now set up the mixed reality, see if we have any more joy with that, I'm going to move on to Revit Live on HP Windows Mixed Reality. And the thing to appreciate with these is, although we're saying it's Enscape on HTC, you can also use Enscape on the mixed reality headsets and vice versa, Revit Live on the HTC. Okay, so mixed reality, it was launched by Microsoft last year to run on Windows 10. Anyone still hear me? Yeah. So it runs on Windows 10. It's to include holographic, virtual and augmented reality experiences. The flagship's the HoloLens, which we hope we're going to show you in a minute. So good luck with that. Other headsets have been developed in partnership with these manufacturers. They build on the technology that you find in the Oculus Rift and in HTC Vive, but they have lower hardware requirements, so they're cheaper. And the key differentiator is they have sensors which come through the two cameras at the front there. So they don't need these external sensors. So they use the cameras here, and they use something called inside-out tracking from within the headset and within the controllers. So they can scan the area around the wearer and incorporate elements in the physical world to create that sort of spatial awareness, hence the term mixed reality. It uses algorithms that originally developed for the HoloLens, which we'll look at in a minute. So that gives it kind of location locking and positional tracking. It also makes them hopefully significantly easier to set up than a HTC V5. Right. On the downside, so it's had some teething problems, as we found. It can be a bit buggy, and it can feel like sometimes it's still in development.
Would you say that these would supersede the Vives and the Oculus? Because they're cheaper, they don't need
Yeah,
that much
I mean,
stuff.
so we got the. Just
Repeat the question.
So the question was, do you think that these will supersede the HTC Vive? I think so, yes, because you've got all this setup for Vive, the positional sensors and all that sort of thing. Whereas this, all you need is this, a laptop and your controllers, and that's it. You can take it anywhere, and they're cheaper. So, and in theory, so the setup for the Vive is about 700 quid, and these, I mean, including all of the extra stuff, these come in at about 350, 400 quid.
Thing to keep in mind is you need pretty purple PC
Yeah.
driving them.
Yeah.
Whereas for the Windows ones, I think they need a lower system.
Yeah, well, that's it. The Windows Mixed Media also these lower hardware requirements. It still needs a decent computer if you want to get a lot out of it.
I think it's that you've got more control over the quality.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think you still need. It's all about the graphics card to sort of run through that. But yeah.
Okay, so it currently works on Windows 10, and there's various software and content on the Microsoft Store, but also it works on any software on the Steam VR platform, which is what we use to get from Revit or Revit Live or Enscape into the Windows Mixed Reality headset. Well, we're going to try and do that.
Okay. Yeah, it's also worth noting you need to install Windows Mixed Reality for Steam VR to get into there.
So does anyone want to come and put it on?
Yeah. Here we go.
Go on.
So the good thing about I'll shout. The good thing about these is that you, rather than having to take the whole thing off, you can just lift that up, which means that if you're not kind of comfortable in that environment, you just want to break, you don't have to take the whole thing off your head. So it's got this twiddly thing at the back, I'll call it, to tighten it up, which is quite good. It's very similar to the HoloLens. So
It's not even opened up the file. No. Did anyone have a go when it was at the back there during the break? Did it work?
It did.
These stooges in the audience.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what happens when you're presenting a multi-million-pound project to your client.
As I said, it's a bit like it.
I didn't have this problem very clear once.
So anyway, Microsoft HoloLens. It's going to be a quick introduction, Alex. And Alex is going to try and get that working and get something showing on the big screen. But HoloLens are mixed reality smart glasses from Microsoft, developed to work with Windows 10, and that's the first problem. And it uses Kinect technology, as you've seen in the Xbox gaming console. So it's still very much in development. It's a very expensive piece of kit, but it's envisaged to have many uses in the future. So uses include these, for instance, similar to the virtual reality stuff we looked at before, surgical uses in design, looking at engineering design, and also in AEC design. So not just in the design stages, but also when you go out on site. This is a brief video which shows you how we might use the HoloLens with augmented reality to have a look at, say, a pipework model and position pipes on site, so you can go and spray the positions of them. So here at BDP we're working with Kazendi, who are Microsoft authorised and Autodesk authorised developers. We're looking at something called HoloMeeting, where you can have multiple people wearing these HoloLenses, and you can open the model and you can see the model, each walk around it, see it from your own perspective, mark it up, comment on it, etc. It's got mouthpieces and earpieces, so you can have a conversation. The good thing is you can even be in different locations, so you can have like 6 people in different offices, and you're all looking around and moving around the same model, and you see an avatar of the other person. What we're going to try and do here.
I've got the model anyway, it's fine.
Yeah.
Don't need that bit.
Shall I just buy a load of toy ones?
Right,
Here we
we're
go.
in.
Are we in?
Okay, we're in. Right. Can we kill the lights? Because then you'll be able to see it a bit better. Okay, does that show you what I can see? We can't kill the lights that much because it needs to actually be able to scan just a little bit. So this is using something called Umbra, and from the tests I've done with other HoloLens apps, this one's the best when it comes to large models. So this is a hospital. This is a full multi-job that we've got. We've got the landscape. We've also, if I kind of peer into it, it lets me, you see we've got all of the equipment in there, all of the M&E, and it handles it pretty well. What it will do as well is, when you get closer to stuff, the resolution improves. Probably tends to take a while, but essentially this is kind of the only thing that I've seen that will optimise a massive model into something that you can use. So yeah, if you want to see yourself, say hello to yourself. Kind of works. So the HoloMeeting thing that Matthew was talking about, well, they came in, they scanned us, they did kind of photogrammetry scans of us, and the idea is that you have your own avatar. So when I'm kind of doing a remote meeting with Matthew, when I'm back in Bristol and I'm talking to Matthew, I can see a very strange looking version of Matthew on the other side. I can see what he's looking at. We can both mark up things on the model in theory, and we can hear each other through the HoloLens as well. Does everyone want to go? This obviously won't work.
It's alright, I can see it. So if you look at something like an icon or something, you see a little yellow pointer. looking at is hovering over, just a little finger gesture, stick your finger out and kind of pinch.
If I see a yellow...
Do you see a yellow line, marker?
Oh yeah. Right.
So have a look at that menu there. You can move, rotate or scale the model. Hover over an icon with that yellow. Can you see it?
Oh yeah, okay.
So you've got the option to scale it to 1:1. The thing that isn't great about HoloLens is that your the field of view inside the HoloLens is it's really small. So at 1:1 scale, it's not brilliant. You're better off looking at, well, my opinion, but you're better off looking at a model, kind of a scale model, and doing markups and discussing things in that way. Again, because if you look at an area that's quite bright, then you don't see it as well as you do inside a proper virtual reality headset. But as you can see, it's quite cool.
Would it be right in saying that you could potentially take clients to a site and have this on site at 1:1 in the right placement?
Yeah. So one of the there's an add-in, I think it's called Visual Live.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of other ones. They work by having you create marker points within your Revit model, and then you can go to site, place those inside with the HoloLens on in the real locations, and then it will scale and orientate your model correctly based on those points. And people are kind of producing new apps for this all the time. So the Trimble one's quite good, although again there's kind of format issues and probably based on SketchUp.
Anyone else? We'll go last couple of minutes.
Yeah, go for it.